From Florida's Space Coast, this is Your Career.
Welcome to Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and with me today is Alan Frisher, and he is the president of Sage Financial Planning. I'm so delighted that you have agreed to come with me because I have really admired your work, and I am a big fan of what you do for a living.
Thank you. I feel like a celebrity.
Well, you should
nice.
be. Well, this is an area that I think I've begun to see many people gravitate towards. So how does one become a financial advisor? How does one choose to become a financial advisor is really the key question.
I don't know if it's a choice more than, a calling for a lot of people. Originally in college, you go to school and you decide what you want to be. I don't think I wanted to be necessarily a financial advisor, but I did like finance and I did like numbers. So my undergraduate was economics and finance. My graduate work was nutrition.
Okay.
And I worked part-time in a health food store to put myself, through college. So ultimately, I became a nutritionist first, and I had my PhD in nutrition, and I helped people nutritionally, create diets and work with vitamins and all of that for many, many years. I used to have health food stores also. When I sold the health food stores, I was still young, and I knew I couldn't afford to retire at that point, so I decided, well, what am I going to do with my life? I had 3 small children, couldn't really afford to retire at that point. So I decided to go back to school and learn to become a financial advisor. It was still working one-on-one with individuals like I did in nutrition, so instead of health, it was wealth.
What attracted you to this field of financial advising?
I've always liked numbers. I've always liked helping people achieve certain goals. Just like I did with nutrition, they were able to achieve optimal health. Now I want them to achieve optimum wealth.
Perfect.
And that was the way that really materialized.
So what does a financial advisor really do? Some of us have them. Some of us think we know.
Right.
But just tell us what.
It's a little complicated just to blurt out exactly what we do because we kind of tailor the financial advice to the individual. There's never been 2 financial plans that are exactly alike. Everybody's concerns are different, are unique, to their needs. So being a financial advisor, certainly you have to go to school. You have to get your Series 7, your Series 66 in my case. I got both of those. So it enabled me really to learn all about investments, about insurances, everything that I would have to learn to be able to give appropriate advice to people. And then I sit down and I listen. I think being a financial advisor, you have to learn to listen effectively. If you don't, and if you can't, then you're not going to really absorb what the client's needs are. Once you listen effectively, then you can ultimately help them form a plan, guide them appropriately, and give them the advice necessary for them to make the decisions on how they want to structure the rest of their lives financially, which is really what you're talking about. You're talking about long-term goals, you're talking about long-term ideas of individual financial planning, family financial planning, multi-generational financial planning. And typically, there are different areas of financial planning. There's investment planning, there's estate planning, there's insurance planning, there's debt management. I mean, so it can really, it can really go on.
And this is why I appreciate you taking the time to, give us that idea because, when I think about a financial planner, it's like, well, I want to be able to retire when I'm 90.
Right.
And so will I have enough money and how can they help me get there? I mean, on a very simplistic front.
Most people want to retire a lot younger than 90.
Oh, okay.
So if they come to me and they're doing retirement planning, and that's a huge concern nowadays, we try to see really how much money they're earning, how much money they've saved, what their goals in retirement, because it's funny, a lot of people don't realize that when you retire at age 65, you have a very good chance of living another 30 years or more in retirement. Have you put enough money aside? Are you going to be getting enough income in retirement to last that 30 years or more?
Right.
When I present people, that number, they say, really? I didn't really expect to live that long. Well, okay, if you don't, then maybe we can do some planning to plan for you not to live that long. But what if you do?
Yeah.
What happens then? We don't want you to run out of money. So, and it's funny, I tell my clients, if they could tell me the exact day that they're going to die, I'll be able to help plan their financial, spending to the penny.
With a little more precision there.
Exactly. So you can't really do that, but you can, leave enough money maybe for beneficiaries and plan for them to live. And if they do, then you should have enough money. Hopefully you'll have enough money for them to survive.
Well, I think the trend is that people are living longer. I mean, we're healthier and we're living longer, and so we need more money than we typically have thought that we would need.
In my nutrition background, I end up talking about health as well in my consultations with them. Keeping them healthy. I want my clients to be around for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of traits, Alan, or skill sets, competencies makes up a good financial planner?
Besides being a good listener, I really think that you have to like people. There are a lot of people that get into this field because they're good with numbers. They're highly analytical. That's important, but it's not, I think, the most important trait. I think the most important trait is to really like people and be able to converse with them. I remember when I first became a financial advisor, they gave me a personality profile test. And they put you into 4 categories. You're either going to be amiable, where you can kind of talk to anybody about anything, be kind of happy-go-lucky, analytical, delve into the numbers, expressive, where you're kind of creative in your thinking, or a driver type of person. And luckily, I was able to, when I took that test, it was a 1,500 question test, it took all day, it was grueling. I tested 25% across the board on everything. And I got a phone call from the president of the company saying that I'm either going to be one of the best financial advisors or one of the worst. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, when you get an analytical client, like a doctor or maybe an engineer, they're going to come in and talk to you. They're going to want to get into the numbers, and you're going to be able to do that. But then you might tell a joke, or you might tell another story, and your personality will come into play. So he suggested that I have a very eclectic mix of clients, which, 16 years later, really is what I have, which is really funny. So he recognized that right off the bat. So I think those type of traits are key to becoming a financial advisor. You don't want to focus on any one, but you want to have a good rounded personality, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of people, a lot of different types of personalities, if you're lucky.
I think one of the things that would challenge me most if I tried to move into a role like that, which I never will, but it would be the fact that I'd have to take my understanding and knowledge of the market and be able to communicate that in terms that any of my clients could understand.
Yeah, the market is very interesting. And when you talk about the market, I tend to step back a little bit, and I try to tell people it's not the market. These are businesses, global and international businesses and domestic businesses that you are using every day in your daily lives. So if you think of that as the market and just talk about business, then you have a better sense of really what you're talking about when you're talking about investing, when you're talking about working with these companies and having faith in certain companies and the management behind those companies.
Very smart of you, because right away I felt just a little more relaxed and more at ease with that, because I didn't feel the intimidation when I think of the market.
That's right.
It's intimidating. It's that big hairy doggone thing out there that I don't understand.
I mean, you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. There are companies that create the toothpaste. You get dressed. Those are companies in fashion.
Right.
You get in your car. Certainly, automobile companies. All of these, have specific businesses behind them that you could focus in and say, I think this is going to be a good business for the future. I'd like to be part of that business. And the stock market and investing gives you the ability to be part of that business if you feel that that's appropriate for you. There are large businesses, multi-billion-dollar businesses, a large capitalization they're called, and small capitalization businesses. And throughout all of history, there have been a lot of different types of businesses that people can invest in. But when you talk about the market, it becomes more nebulous, and people don't understand that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Very, very, very important point that you've just made there. I want to step back for just a minute. You've shared with us a little bit about your journey that you've up to the point of the health food stores and selling it, and then you began to explore. What was your first job in financial planning, and how did that progression move into being an independent advisor?
I first started with American Express. They're the ones that trained me. They sent me up to advanced training in Minnesota, which was wonderful. It was a very emotional training. It was probably the best training that anybody can get as a financial advisor.
Why was it emotional?
Well, they put you through a lot of different types of routines, and they really pull on your heartstrings sometimes, because they want you to see what you may be facing, as you become a financial advisor. So they want you to understand that it's not just analytical. It's not just looking at numbers. It's dealing with people, and people are, emotional.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to take a step back and not let emotions really rule what you want to do financially. You know, you want to be able to understand that these are numbers, and numbers have no emotions. You know, if you have certain goals, it doesn't really have any emotions attached to it. So you have to be able to pull back. On the same time, you have to understand that your clients are going to be emotional. So in this marketplace, for instance, people are saying, well, the market is down, I'm losing money. Are you really losing money? Or maybe it's a good time to put more money into the market, because historically the market has always grown over time when it's have some pullback. So, you know, you want to take that out. So American Express was the first place that I started. Stayed there for 3 years. Then I went to H&R Block and learned the tax aspect of the business a little bit more in depth. And then after I left H&R Block, I went to LPL Financial Advisors. That is the largest independent financial advisory company out there, and I've been with them ever since. And I love being independent because it enables me really to go out into the entire realm of the marketplace and find investments that are specifically designed for what my clients' needs are.
That's great. What do you do, or what advice would you give a young person who says, I'm really great with the numbers, but people not so much, but I really know I want to do this? Have you ever had that, or can you, what advice would you give?
I would ask them to maybe intern with a financial advisor for a little while, you know, really understand what the business entails, because it really is a business like anything else, especially if you're going to be independent, because now you're going to create your own 401ks and your own retirement plans. You're going to be paying your own rent or your own mortgage, whatever you have for your business. You're not going to count on another owner. You're going to be the owner. So if this is something that you really want, I would suggest that they maybe intern with a financial advisor and really understand how this business works. It's not easy. It's not for everybody, certainly.
Right.
You know, it's funny, Money Magazine at one time said that being a financial advisor is the best business, you know, in the world. And certainly at different times of year, you know, it can be. You know, we work with the clients that we want to work with. We set our own schedules. I've turned down certain clients because I didn't think it would be, you know, a real fit for our personalities. On the other hand, when you have a depressed market and you have clients calling saying, you know, am I going to lose money? What's going on? Are we still planning effectively? You have to be able to handle, you know, that type of adversity at the same time. So, you know, it's certainly not easy sometimes. Would I agree with Money Magazine? At different times. Would I disagree? At different times. Yeah.
So it just kind of depends.
It just depends.
Now, there was a chart that you showed me about the history of the markets.
Yeah.
That I think is quite telling, and I think somebody that's young in the field or somebody that's considering coming into the field might, as well as any viewer that's an investor, might find that of interest.
I think this is it's a great chart because basically it shows that even through really trying times in our history, you know, we have times where we had assassinations, the JFK assassination, World War II, the markets crashed in '84, the World Trade Center, you know, collapsed.
Right.
But if you've noticed, all of the, historically speaking, of course, the trends have always, you know, gone up. And as long as people can withstand some volatility, the only real way to really beat inflation, beat market trends, economic trends, I should say, is to be an investor. You know, think about it. If you put money in the market now, you have some volatility going on in the market. But what's inflation? Inflation typically is about 3 to 4% annually. And if you put money in the bank, what are you getting right now?
Boy, not good.
You know, 1%, maybe less. So, you know, think about it. If you put money in the bank, you're not even making, you know, market conditions with inflation right now. You want to have investments that can beat that inflation. Otherwise, you're just going to go like this, or maybe even go down below. And you're not going to beat inflation. Then where are you?
Yeah.
You'll never reach your retirement goals. You'll never reach the goals that you want to financially.
So it's really important for a person to work with a financial advisor generally to help them look at the big picture and be more strategic in the way that they're investing.
I mean, I think so. I think a lot of people think that they can do things on their own, and some people can. You know, if you really follow the market trends, you understand market conditions, you could take the emotions out of it. There's a lot to investing, and I'm not right all the time, but over the course of time, you could withstand certain volatility. You can go in different types of investments depending upon your age, depending upon the time that you have to reach that certain goal. And as a financial advisor, we get the ability to invest in certain products that the general public will not be able to do if they just want to try to do it on their own.
You bet. I'm sitting here wondering about that young graduate they come right out of school with the right degrees, they get the licensing. Can they, I mean, how likely is it, Alan, that they're going to be able to step right into that role of a financial advisor and meet with success?
It's not easy, but I certainly did. I was a little bit older when I became a financial advisor. It's kind of my second career, and I remember the younger advisors that were there would come to me and say, "Alan, how do I, earn the respect of these older people that have, decent amounts of money when I'm this young, whippersnapper, coming up through?" And it's not easy, but you can certainly impress them with your base of knowledge. I remember one of my first clients, and this is, a true story. He was an engineer. He comes into the office, and I did cold calling, so I didn't even have really a whole lot of clients at the beginning. But he was an engineer. He came in and he said, "I need to make 6.2% because I want to have this house and I want to have this retirement plan and I want to have this." And he had it all laid out to me. I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hang on. I can't promise you that you're going to make that exact percentage year in and year out. I can't promise that you will achieve this and this at the time frame that you want. But given your goals, given the time frame that we have, this is how I would structure your plan, and we can be flexible and understand what your needs are over this course of time. And I think we could achieve these goals realistically." And he sits back, he crosses his arms. He said, "Alan, I want to tell you something." I said, "Oh, here it goes. Here we come." He says, "I've interviewed with 7 other financial advisors, and not one of them put me in my place like you just did. You're the guy. You're who I want."
Wow.
And he's still a client to this day, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
So you never know really what you're going to meet out there. You have to kind of be yourself, and you have to, I wouldn't say try to win people over, just show them rationally, what needs to get done, how it needs to get done, and trust your instincts, I guess.
Yeah, well, it sounds like in that particular case, you had to trust your knowledge of the market and be able to respectfully challenge that person to get them, challenge their thinking. You're not challenging the person as much as it sounded like to me you were challenging the way the person was thinking.
Right, absolutely. And I was brand new in the field,
Wow.
but I guess I had whatever it took at that point to really challenge him, and he didn't expect it evidently. I didn't expect to get the answer that I did, so that was good.
You're waiting for the shoe to fall.
I was waiting for something, yeah. I was certainly waiting for
So
something.
what about that older person who is transitioning out of whatever career into financial advising? What are some things that they might need to be really thinking about to ensure that they're successful?
Well, again, certainly understanding people, understanding what your needs are as well. If you need to have a certain amount of money quickly, I would not go into financial planning. It's something that takes a while to develop. You have to develop a client base, and you always need to be hungry. You always need to be looking for that new client. You're not necessarily a salesperson, although some advisors would say that that's what they do. They sell. And I've been told that at different times in the world, nothing really happens in life until you make a sale. But don't expect to make those sales right away. Certainly being in the business a long time gives you a certain amount of credibility. It gives you a certain amount of just ability in general, knowing the market. If you've gone through some of the horrific times that we've had in the market. When I became a financial advisor in 2000, we were going through a serious recession at that point. And advisors that made it through that time, are decent advisors. They've learned to protect their clients' money through the worst scenarios. And that's what I think you need to do first. You need to be able to protect clients' money and always focus on the client. You can't really necessarily focus on what your needs are. So if you need transitioning from one career to another, you need to have a certain amount of money. Being a financial advisor may not be the best choice because it's going to take some time to build up that career.
In thinking about this transition that a person has gone through, what are some of the challenges that they might, and you may have alluded to it already, but what are some of the obstacles that they might be encountering, besides the fact that it's slow in terms of, and this would be for both groups of people, young and the more mature coming in the industry, in this case where, it's a slow startup in terms of being able to really you're not going to get rich quick.
No, unless you get very fortunate and you have somebody, that trusts you immediately and gives you, a lot of money to manage. But I really believe that you have to build up that credibility, with people, and it does take time, for that. That's really, the main issue, I think, in our business. Anybody can learn the strategies behind things, if they have an aptitude to learn, if they like numbers, if they like finance in general. But it's certainly dealing with people and the emotions that come with that. I can't stress that enough, because there's just so much nuance that occurs with finance. People don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So bringing up, the questions to them, well, what about, life insurance? Now you have to have a talk of somebody dying. What about long-term care insurance, which is even, more difficult?
Sure.
Now you have to talk about somebody being, ill, they have a stroke.
Disabled.
Disabled, for long periods of time. What about estate planning? I mean, who do you want to leave the money to if you die, or if you want to control it from the grave? We have to set up trusts. Well, that's another cost, factor.
Right.
So there's a lot to deal with when you're talking to individuals, and it's not going to happen overnight. Now, when people talk to me, well, what kind of clients, do you have? I'll take on really anybody that I feel comfortable with, from the individual housewife that may just need an IRA to the multi-millionaire who has wealth management needs, and they'll give me a million. I'm still waiting for my first lotto millionaire. I don't have any of those yet.
I thought you had just won that.
You know what? I thought that would be wonderful, especially since they just won it here in Melbourne. But they're not my client, unfortunately. But I have that all planned out already, especially if they're healthy. We can make it multi-generational.
That's awesome.
And we can do a lot of strategies for somebody. But firstly, protect people's money.
Yeah.
If you protect people's money first and then worry about the growth afterwards, I think that you'll develop more trust. And in time, people will want to do more business with you.
Yeah, I think that would be the attractor, excuse me, for a number of people, is the fact that you have that mentality that you really want to protect their assets. I'm curious, looking at it from the consumer's perspective. So I'm shopping for an advisor, and I've been in this role before, and I've shopped, and I got with one organization, and I kept getting, moved from this company to that, or this advisor to that advisor. I said, wait a minute, I'm not being taken care of. So what would you recommend? How do you go about choosing a financial advisor?
Well, it's a relationship, like anything else. So when you sit down with somebody, interview them. Like they would be interviewing you, you interview them. You find out if your personality traits kind of work with their personality traits. Make sure they listen. Make sure that they understand what your needs are, what your goals are, what you want to achieve, and the time frame that you want to achieve it. See if they can do that. Ask them how they're going to do that with, are they going to show you charts? Are they going to, like we show it here?
Right,
Are they going to sit down and do it kind of off the cuff? I have clients that need to see, the numbers and need to see what we're doing in an actual plan. I have other clients that I could pencil and paper it and say, okay, you have an estate planning need? Okay, well, this is what we'll do. I'll refer you out to, this attorney. You have long-term care needs? Well, this is, the company that I will use for you. But it's always a relationship.
Yeah.
Make sure the company that they work for is established. They're not a fly-by-night company. Make sure that they understand what type of investor and risk you want. If your risk is, if you're a conservative investor, you don't want to be put into commodities. You don't want to be put into gold and precious metals. If you're a growth-oriented investor, you want to make sure that the growth that they're putting you in is diversified, and that you have ability to get the money if you need it. Or if you're a long-term investor, it can be put away. You can withstand some volatility. So there's a lot to investing and the types of investments that you're going to be put into.
Yeah. I want to get to one thing that you mentioned, that there's really a lot of different niches that financial advisors can fall into.
Yes.
And you have one that really came your way through a variety of reasons. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for better or worse, I went through my own divorce back in 2003, and that gave me the ability, if you will, to really learn more about that area of financial planning. While financial advisors see a lot of different types of life events, divorce is probably the second most stressful life event that people have. The first one, I think, being a death in the family, and divorce tied with being incarcerated. Since I can't really do prison planning, I thought divorce planning might be around to go. And since during that time of my life I wasn't sleeping anyway, I figured another designation might be appropriate. So I actually became a certified divorce financial analyst.
Wow.
And now I have two separate businesses, one as a wealth management financial advisor and another as a divorce financial analyst. working with people going through that stage of their life. So much so that I became an activist here in the state of Florida, and I'm actually trying to change the current law regarding divorce. We have a large organization, and hopefully this year will be the year that we get some significant change in our current divorce law.
And you've written a book.
I have.
On that.
I have.
So
It's called Divorcing the System. I was very proud to say that it just made top 100 on Amazon in its field. So I was thrilled to know that. And it's just, it's a divorce book that tells my story, my personal story, but it also shows what is happening in the field of divorce. That litigating attorneys are becoming wealthy off of the emotional devastation that people have during this time in their lives. And it's not necessarily because of the attorney's fault per se. It's really because the laws are geared in a way to allow them to take advantage and make all this money to the detriment of families, to the detriment of children and the spouses going through that stage of life. So when I saw all of that, because I have the financial background, the professional background, the personal experience of going through my own divorce, and I've developed the legislative experience over the years.
thank you so much for the time and the investment of knowledge, and I appreciate you coming and sharing your expertise to educate our viewers on the subject of financial planning.
My pleasure, thank you.
Yeah. And on behalf of my guest and everyone here on the set of Your Career, thank you for watching, and remember, be career happy.
More information about this program is available online at millermediagroup.org.